This is Success Beyond the Score, giving insights and tips to help you learn how to build your music career from the best in the field by Millicent Stephenson. Millicent is a multi-award winning saxophonist and endorser of Harry Hartman's Fiber Reeds. She is currently serving on the Executive Committee of the Musicians Union. With over 40 years' experience in the creative industry, Millicent has honed her performance and business skills. She provides personal development training and coaching via her online platform, successbeyondthescore.com.
Hello everybody, I'm Millicent Stephenson, and I want to start this episode wishing you the best of the best for the new year 2022. I hope you had the opportunity to celebrate Christmas, to rest, and really get your mind ready to smash all your goals for 2022. Actually, today's theme is perfect to start the new year. From each of my guests, you are going to hear at least 3 essential tips, things you can do now to help you make it in the music industry. It condenses all the other advice and experience we've enjoyed throughout the whole season, which is great and useful for your planning. Now, please be aware that the interviews took place at different times during the pandemic, and also we did it over Zoom, so you will hear a difference in the sound quality, but you're going to come away with some really great nuggets to help you move forward. So let's find out from Anna Brooks, Tony Bean, Louise Dengate, Dan Whitehouse, Abigail Kelly, and Ruby Turner. What are your 3 tips, and you can give more, but what are your 3 tips to get to anyone who wants to have a full-time career in music? And
right.
While you think about that, because there are some people I know who have, when they were at school, wanted to go into music, but their parents have said, don't go into music, you can't make a living out of that. Or people who have tried making a living in music, but it's not work. But you're a full-time musician, successfully full-time. I know COVID's knocked everybody, so that's, but that's one side. But you've done it, you've done music prep, you're an arranger, director, performer, touring, recording, all this kind of thing. So what are your tips to help people transition their music into a full-time career?
Okay, so I think if you're 3 tips, that's a tricky one. I would say,
well, let's extend it to 5 then, if you need 5.
Okay, well, okay. Let me see how many I come up with then.
Oh, I should do 10.
First of all, I would say if you're thinking, is being a professional musician the right thing for me? The answer is, if it's not your passion, you should know the answer to that. You shouldn't be asking yourself, is this the right thing? It should be your passion. It needs to be your passion, because that passion is what will drive you to practice, to work hard. It has to be your calling, because it's not an easy job. A few people get lucky and make an absolute ton of money. A lot of people, get great artistically fulfilling projects and have a wonderful time, but don't earn a lot of money. It's not as glamorous as it might seem. So it has to be your passion, and your passion is also, that's what saves you as well when you get knockbacks. That's what makes you get up when you get kicked down, or if you miss an opportunity, or if you think you're going to get a prestigious gig and it ends up going to somebody else, it's your passion that keeps you going. So it's got to be your calling. It's not something you can dabble with, basically. So you need passion. You've got to have that passion. And of course, that ultimately is what people will pick up on when you play. So, you've got to have passion in the way that you perform as well. You've got to perform with something that speaks to other people. And so that's absolutely essential, I would say. Without that passion, your music isn't going to speak to other people. And I think often if you think about, I don't know, maybe think about your favorite song or your favorite artist, and if you think, why is that my favorite song, or why is that person my favorite artist, it's usually, or 99.9 times out of 100, it will be because it gets you in the heart, it speaks to you, and that is because that particular artist is sharing their passion with you, in my view. So number one, passion. Number two, tips for if you're going to be a professional musician, you've got to study hard and practice hard. You've got to know your craft inside and out. There is no app or hack or quick fix to get you from a beginner saxophonist to a professional in 6 months. It doesn't exist. It's hard slog, it's repetition, it's practice, it's dedication, and knowledge. And as I said before, you don't have to study at a university or go to music college, but the knowledge is all out there for you to gain. So you've got to study in whatever way that might be, whether that's your own personally directed study, or if it's a formal kind of higher education or further education. You need to know your craft, and you need to study and work hard, and it's not going to happen overnight. There's no way.
Not overnight.
No. And then I think tip number 3, from my point of view, is to build a portfolio career. So, if I look at what I do, there are times when I do, maybe one aspect of my career where I'll be working on that more than another. So I might be working on an album, either as part of the band like Brooklyn Funk Essentials, or an album of my own, and that's eventually hopefully going to generate some income. Or and then another time I might be arranging for a particular musician or a theatre show, or sometimes I arrange music for cruise ships for people who say who like me to make them a whole set for something like that. That might be taking up a lot of my time, or it might be in the quieter times. I'm always teaching at the Birmingham Conservatoire. But that portfolio career is absolutely essential, because otherwise, if you're only doing one thing, and then obviously there's all the touring and the gigs, gigs makes up the vast majority of my income as a professional musician. But obviously, right now, there ain't no gigs really, so luckily, I've got the little bit of teaching that I do at the Birmingham Conservatoire kind of almost pays the bills. Nothing's paying the bills entirely right now. It's because of the situation we're in. But I had a surprise PPL payment that came in the other day, and that was from my album, my jazz album. So writing music, performing music, these are all things I would suggest. So, and maybe pick a few or all, but compose your own music and publish it, because then you will get your writer's credits. Perform music, and not necessarily just with other bands, but your own thing as well. I'm still out there. If somebody wants me to go and play for their wedding, I will still go and do it. In fact, I actually have, here I am complaining about no work, I actually am playing for somebody's wedding tomorrow, which is quite astonishing. Just 15 people, because those are the regulations, and all very socially distanced. But take every opportunity, and I have no qualms. I am not a musical snob. I don't think any form of musical performance is better than any other. There's some that I enjoy more, but so performance, composing, music, arranging music. There are so many different things that you can do. Obviously a lot of people do YouTube, putting content and making money from that. Just diversify, and also it's really, really useful to not just play one instrument. And the fact that I do a lot of backing vocals and some lead vocals as well, I think that has made me a lot more employable. So if there's something that you do that's not necessarily your main instrument, don't be afraid to put that out there and include that in whatever you're doing, if it's your own project. Having said that, I'm not about to get my violin out of the loft, because I haven't touched that for like 20 years. Actually, I did get it out a while ago and went, yeah, you know what, I'll just but I could get it out and brush it up and record my own string parts, anything like that makes what you do a little bit more unique. Do it, don't be afraid to use other skills that you might have, other musical skills, even if you feel they're slightly lesser, not necessarily, because that might just be your kind of niche thing that helps people recognize you. So portfolio career, super important.
Excellent.
Diversify.
Excellent.
You've already given some tips and advice throughout this interview, but can you think of 3 other tips? I mean, it might be based on your 30 years of experience that you want to give to up and coming producers or existing producers or artists. But what were those tips that you would give to anyone who's wanted to have a full-time career in music? Again, obviously it's lockdown, it's COVID, but yeah, what kind of tips would you give? Just 3, if you can think of those.
Obviously the hard work ethic's the main thing. You have to put the hours into what you do. So that whether that be writing, production, practice, but put the hours into what you do, into the gift you have, whether that's your voice, an instrument, whatever it is, put the hours in on that. Make sure that you are, again, invest, I can't say enough, invest in yourself. Do not expect that everybody else is going to invest in you before you invest in yourself. Don't be looking for a lucky break. You have to make your own fortune in a lot of ways. Put yourself out there. And when you do meet people, be prepared to have something to give them. Be able to point to somewhere for them to listen to what you do. See what you do, hear what you do. Don't be walking around saying, I've got a great idea, it's in my head, but I need some money to get it out, and I need help getting it out of my head. Get the idea down, get your songs together, get your production. If you're a producer, start to produce stuff that people can hear, so they can listen to it and say, oh, okay, I get where you're going. I know I can hear the talent, I can hear the gifting. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Recording equipment's quite reasonable now. You can get digital recording equipment for your laptop. Get some equipment, start recording, start producing people, start working at your craft, and don't be afraid to invest in yourself. You've got to be the first point of investment. And basically network. Treat everybody like somebody that is important. Don't just look at the man in the suit and think, oh, that's the person that I need to head for. I need to speak to him. I'll disregard everybody else around me, because you don't know. I was taught a very early lesson with the first guy that signed us to Polydor. He was very sharp in the way that he dealt with people. And I remember I had an offer of a publishing deal from Warner Chappell, and we were going to see the execs at Warner Chappell, and the guy I was with who signed us at Polydor, he introduced us to the guys at Warner Chappell. He said, I'm just going to ring ahead. I need to make an appointment for another day as well. So he was on the phone, and I heard him say to the secretary, oh, hello, love, how are you doing? I brought your birthday card. I'm going to come in and bring it to you. And he was talking to this secretary, and she was saying, oh, you're so kind, you're so lovely. And I said to him, she was a receptionist, wasn't she? Do you know her? And he goes, no, I've got to know her though. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, I treat everybody brilliantly. He said, I remember all their birthdays, all the girls on reception. I always remember their birthdays, bring them in a card. And I said, there's a reason for this, isn't there? And he said, yeah, because you know what? When I need an appointment with somebody, they get it for me. They never say to me on the phone, oh, he's busy, he's in a meeting. They'll say, I'll get him for you. I'll make sure I get him up. And he says he gets appointments every time because he treats the receptionist great.
Yes.
And I thought, ooh, that is very, very. And they loved him there. He walked in, they knew his name. Any appointment he wanted, those receptionists would get him. And they'd never say to him, oh, it's busy. Yeah, it's busy. Call back later. They'd always say, I will get you an appointment there. Yeah. So it's a case of everybody has value, treat everybody well, network well with people, never treat people as, oh, you're not important to me, because you don't know who they are. And more to the point, you don't know who they're going to be.
Yes.
And people can rise through ranks, and you will see people that might be the cleaner one day, might be the vice president the next day. So treat everybody with respect, treat everybody with value, because at some point they're going to be important to you.
Yeah.
And that's when you're networking, always remember that everybody is somebody.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are into music, not a full-time career, but would love to have a full-time career. What are the sort of 3 tips that you would give someone like that who wants to make music their full-time goal? They may well have another job, or they might just be straight out of university, whatever. They're just not at that point. What would be sort of the tips, looking back at your journey, that you would say to them that it's important for them to do to get there?
Yeah. I would say to try and increase your skill as much as you can. Keep working your craft, especially when you're young. Just keep going, work hard, get good at it, put the hours in. It's the people that really work hard and are keen. Often I've seen students before where one is naturally, in a sort of a natural sense, better than someone else, but the hard worker, they'll inch up. And sometimes the natural one can be lazy, not always, but sometimes. And then they'll just they won't go as far. So really, really work on the skill, get the lessons, especially when you're at a higher stage, get a really good teacher, sniff out the best one. I remember when I wanted to do my grade 8 piano, because I had quite a gap, and somebody said, oh, this guy Peter, he's the best in the area. So I rang up this guy. I said, oh, hi Peter, I've heard that you're the best piano teacher in the area. He went, I am without doubt the best piano teacher in the whole area. I was like, oh, I like your confidence. So, and he's brilliant. So get really good training. I say that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Second thing is this whole idea about knowing who you are, and knowing your own sort of emotional world and what's best gonna suit you. So I know a guy who is totally exuberant and extrovert. He loves a good time. So he's brilliant for doing like the party bands, and he loves to be center stage. Boom, he's massive. Like he loves it. But I know other people that are quieter, more introverted, more shy. And so for them, they're much happier doing sort of background music in a restaurant, or, singing at a wedding reception sort of background. So knowing who you are, so then you choose the best place in the sort of musical circle of life. As I sort of say it to people, like, don't try and put yourself in a position that's not going to suit you as a person. I see some people really pushing themselves to be in a certain place, but then they don't always enjoy it. And I say, yeah, but because don't you think that you don't like it because of da-da-da-da-da? Wouldn't you prefer da-da-da-da-da? So placing yourself right, I think.
So it's not all about an X Factor contract then?
No, my goodness, X Factor's got a lot to answer for. Seriously, that program. I mean, I get it; it's fun and it's it's family entertainment. But I do think it sets this ridiculously high standard, and it makes a lot of young people, I find, think that they're really rubbish, because they're comparing themselves to people that X Factor sometimes make out, oh, look at this boy band, they've just been rehearsing in their bedroom for the last year and a half and they're just amazing, when actually that's not always the case. Like, X Factor scout for groups that are already managed and produced and are already excellent, and then get them to pretend to do an audition when they've had so much work. Like, I was working with a boy band and they are excellent. 4 boys.
Yeah.
They've got very wealthy families. They've had a lot of money put into them. They've had a lot of training. And then X Factor scouted them and said they wanted to put them in auditions, and they'd make this whole story that they're just 4 lads that got together, you know, a couple of weeks ago and are amazing. And I'm like, that's not fair, because you're making out that it's easy to get this high standard, when actually that high standard was through money and time and effort and training. And then other people look at it and think, oh, I'm not as good as that. Well, yeah, because you just haven't spent £10,000 or whatever it was, that ridiculous amounts of money their 4 parents have spent on them. So yeah, gives kids issues. Anyway, that was a totally random thing.
Well, I know it's random, but I think it's really important, because a lot of people, like you say, sorry, just turning my fan off, a lot of people get the wrong impression. I mean, I know 2 or 3 people who have been contestants who probably got into the top 15, top 10 type thing. And when they tell me what the behind the scenes is like, I'm like, pardon?
Yeah.
Because what you see on the TV is not what it's like behind the scenes, you know.
No.
And, you know, just your story there, I think it's important for people to know that, you know, if you're going for a competition, it's not like that. There is this persona of, you've got to be at a certain level, or you're going to be picked and you're going to be great. And, you know, you're going to get this really fantastic thing, and then you're going to get the contract. Even if you do win, it's only one person that will get that contract, really.
Yeah.
And then it's a whole different life after that, you know.
And they're not always
so
necessarily happy. You know, I mean, some of them are happy, but some of them are not necessarily happy. And then you think you've done all of that, and then you're not actually that happy. So like, oh man, that's hard work.
Yeah.
So I do think that, like, get your skill up, and get your psychology up, know the best place for you. And that might not mean fame and fortune. Now, for some people, they totally want the fame and fortune, and if they got it, they'd be like flying. But other people, it wouldn't suit them. So I think there's a lot about knowing who you are and where you fit, you know, and where's best for you as a person. Yeah. But the third thing I think
yeah, go on. Yeah, I'm going to say number 3.
The third thing I'd say is, like, just get out there. So when I was first wanting to get in a jazz band, before I met Alex and auditioned for his band, I saw lots of signs up for different jazz bands around the area. So I would just walk in and find the leader and go, hi, I really want to get into jazz. Any chance of singing with you guys tonight? You know, I can sing this number, this, you know, all the standards. And they're like, yeah, great. So just started singing with them, and then they were super friendly, and then I'd go along, and it became a bit of a regular thing. And then one of them did a bit of an offshoot, and he did a different band, so I was with them for a little bit. So I'd say, just to get out there and start talking to people, and because you can build all the skill in the world, but if you just stay in your bedroom building your skill, you're not going to do very much. So, like, build the skill, know who you are, and then get yourself out there and see what you can get.
So listen, what sort of 3 tips would you give anyone who's wanting to have a full-time career in music?
The number 1 tip would be to listen into their inner artist. Develop practices that help you to engage with that voice. Find out who that person is, what they sound like and what they want to say. And that's not to be underestimated, and that's quite a long path typically. And then it's a people business. Get good people around you. Network in a slow burn, old-fashioned manner of, you know, making good relationships and friends with fellow artists and creatives for the right reasons, you know, centered around the art that you want to make, not just for what they can do for you or what media slots they can get for you or whatever. So build a strong network in that way. Those would be the 2 main.
Wow.
You know, if you're in touch with your inner artist, and then you've got a great strong network of people that support you through that. I guess the third thing would be the way that you engage with your audience, you know, to be aware of that relationship, that you're the performer, and every singer needs an audience, and that will take some work of one kind or another to develop, first of all, to develop that audience, and then how you're going to address them.
You've given 3 really interesting tips there. My cogs are whirling. Let's start with the audience. What sort of additional tips would you give anyone out there who wants to build an audience, to start building that audience? Any tips around that?
Well, I think if you're starting completely from nothing,
Hmm.
I think the age-old principle of supporting more established acts is still a good principle. I mean, in this day and age, it might not be that you're doing that in person at live shows so much, but the same principle exists on Spotify. They call it for fans of, you know, knowing what genre and what mood your music is and looking at what artists sort of share that, and then finding out, you know, how can you connect with those, with their audiences. So whether that's through collaborating or contacting their label, trying to get them to put your stuff out, or even through, you know, targeted online ads to their audience, or you know, looking at the color and the texture of the sort of artwork and videos that those artists are producing, and why is that resonating with those people, and, you know, doing something inspired by that.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And what about sort of getting in touch with your inner artist? I really love that. What sort of tips would you give to help people to probably start that journey of getting in touch with their inner artist? Because that's all about being true to themselves, isn't it? And being genuine and complete on stage. But what would be your sort of tips around that?
There's so many distractions in modern life that it's very easy for a day to go by and for us not to meditate or contemplate or reflect on our own feelings and thoughts and interpretations of the things that we're seeing. There's very little time for reflection. It's sort of just one thing after another.
Yeah.
So building into your daily routine, first of all, just some thinking time. It could be, but it doesn't have to be formal meditation. I think songwriters need time to digest things that they've seen. And, you know, I find that through taking a daily walk, through doing some yoga practice, through doing scales and techniques on guitar that can get me into a certain different headspace. So allowing yourself the space to be creative. You know, it's not a treat. It's, as an artist, it's your duty, and it's part of your working life is to have these hours of writing time, reviewing time, listening time, and to know what inspires you to, you know, whether certain books, records, films, indulge in that stuff. Let yourself be immersed in it and read it and listen to the music that you love. You know, you can learn so much through listening to inspiring artists, and listening well. I don't think the internet and social media encourages us to listen well at all.
No, I don't think it does. I find the times when when I'm resting, I actually put my phone far away from me or in a different room just to feel like I can rest. Because if my phone is near me, I'm always thinking, is someone going to call, text? Do I need to respond? You hear a chime or something. And I have had days when I take a day, I actually switch it off. I just don't want to know. And then you
Good for
feel
you.
at peace with yourself. You know, it's the IT, it really gets in. I don't know, it really gets in, really gets in. So it's great on one side, but on another side, I think it's very damaging, you know.
It is, and let's be honest, it's just sometimes it's hard to turn off, and not least because you're trying to make a living.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, some months it's really tight, or it has been, and you know, I'm reliant on technology to make the connections, to make contracts happen and do things.
Yeah.
And so but that's a really vicious cycle as a self-employed person. I think that's one thing to be aware of. So it's great that you are so disciplined with it.
Yeah, I've just had to, I think I've had some health issues over the last couple of years where it's forced me to behave myself a bit more. And yeah, I've got to stop, because I used to do my own social media. I have someone who does it for me now, but it was like a rat in on a treadmill type thing, whatever it is you describe it. I was constantly on there, posting, checking who, looking at the analytics, looking at this, looking at, and it eventually just kind of burnt me out. And I'm like, this is just crazy. And when I realized that you just can't win, because you can put up a post 3 times a day, but can you do that for 7 days of the week? Can you do that for 12 months of the year? Absolutely difficult, because the computers are not human. You know, these robots and things will just churn out other things, say you must do more, you must do more. So I got to a point where I think, you know, I can't win. I've just got to do what I can do, and that's my level. You know, just burn out. But so you are right, it's really important to stand still, to digest, to do your journal, meditation, all of that. It's really important. And I think as full-time musicians, self-employed, you are your own boss. You know, if you're employed for another company, you'd get holiday pay and time off. You know, as a self-employed person, you've got to make time to have the time off, you know, and it's kind of hard when you say, if you've had a low month, you know, you're there trying to, got these bills to pay, I got to go in again. You get a high month, great, you know, but you've got to get that balance. And IT doesn't help. It can help, but sometimes it's a hindrance. For anyone who's wanted to have a full-time career in music, what were the sort of tips that you would give?
Oh, now I'm gonna do 2 tips. My first 2 tips are going to be extremely contradictory. So my first tip would be to have a side hustle, so that you have something that is, you know, responsible for your main source of income while you're you know, working on your musical career. For me, that was teaching. I was very, very lucky that it was teaching singing and teaching music. So it was, you know, accompanied what I was trying to achieve. And it's something that I love doing. And it's something that I continue to do now. So you know, teaching is my side hustle. It's not really my side hustle anymore. It's, you know, a big, huge part of my career. My second tip is going to totally contradict that tip, which is don't have a safety blanket. Because if you do have a safety blanket or a safety net, then you will always have something to fall back on. And you might not kind of go, I have to do this, otherwise I have nothing else. So, and I think those 2 pieces of advice are for 2 different types of people. I needed a safety blanket because I'm that kind of person. That for me, I don't gamble. I'm not that kind of, you know, put it all on red and just go for it all. I would be like, I'm just going to split it, you know, put some on red, some on black. That's my personality. But for some people, when they need that final push, that big thing that is going to make them do the thing that they've always wanted to do, take the safety net away. Just go for it wholeheartedly. My third tip is know your stuff. Be on it all the time. That's something that I've been discussing a lot with people this year. I have a fear of turning up at a rehearsal and not knowing my stuff, not knowing the words, not knowing the music, feeling like I haven't done my job, feeling inadequate. But you know, the amount of rehearsals that I've turned up to where there's somebody else in the room who has not opened the score, has not looked at it, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of go, firstly, I think, wow, you are brave. Secondly, I think, I hope you're not going to waste that time. And then thirdly, I'm like, you know, the energy, the positive energy that you must exude to believe that that's what you can do to walk into a room without having prepped. I bow down to that energy, because that is some confidence there that I do not have. But I would say, know your stuff, practice, learn your repertoire. Learn, just, you know who you are as a performer. Maybe is number 4, actually. Learn who you are as a performer. As a performer, I'm the kind of person who is I throw myself into everything wholeheartedly. I know how I like to come across at a workshop, compared with how I come across when I'm teaching individuals, compared with how I come across when I'm teaching youngsters. So I'm not saying I've got like loads of different versions of Abigail that walk into a different room in, a different way, but I definitely know what I want to get across depending on what I'm doing and, what I want to achieve. So know who you are as an artist. No, that's also the way you hold yourself, the way you walk. Practice all of those things. You walk into an audition, know how you're going to walk into that audition, bring the energy that you want to bring for that audition, and then own it. Know what you want to wear, know how you want to represent. I chose today to put on this and to put on these, and to know who you are and know what you want to exude. For years I thought, I'm an opera singer, so therefore I have to wear a scarf, and I have to wear a jacket and a suit, and I have to put my hair up, and I have to do this, that, and the other. And actually that is not who I am all the time. Be who you are. Know who you are as an artist, because you as an individual bring something extremely different and special to whatever genre of music it is that you are breaking into. And that's when people are going to go, I'm interested in that person. I'm not interested in this person being a version of everything else I've seen. I am interested in that person being exactly what they are. And fifth one, I'm going to say, don't take it too seriously. That is that contradicts almost all the rest of the things that I said. But like we were joking about the fact that we go off and we do gigs and there's no dressing room. That's like it's kind of, on one hand it's not cool, but on the other hand it's the sort of thing that you just go, hey, you know what, this is what I'm having to deal with today. I'm going to get on with it. I'm going to get through it. And it's not going to affect my performance. My performance is rock solid because I did tip number 4, which was to, tip number 3, which was to practice and know your stuff. So, don't take stuff too seriously. Don't take it too seriously is what I would say.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. I think I have one little thing I wanted to squeeze in just before we wrap up, and that is back on to know your stuff. You say you have to learn lots and lots and lots of stuff to do an opera 3 hours. What's your sort of tips for memorizing that lot of information?
Well, so I would say that when you're memorizing things, there are so many memory techniques that you can use. So you've got your muscle memory, which is just if it's words, for example, or piano or whatever instrument it is that you're doing. Obviously, the more you physically practice it, the more that your muscles will just get used to doing, what you want them to do. I would say then you've got mental memory, which is where if you just have it running in the back of your head, just over and over and over and on a loop. And the way I do that is I very often record myself either saying lines, or I record myself speaking the words to the either the song or the aria or whatever it is, in whatever language it is, in rhythm, so that I don't then have to tire my voice out by repeating it out loud all the time. Because otherwise it just it takes a toll. So I have my voice, but it's an external source, which means that I can get on with washing up, get on with doing the hoovering, get on with walking to work, and doing all of that sort of stuff. So those are those two, and then one that's a bit of a combination of the two is I write it down. I write it out. I go, I write it down a few times. I will either leave it in a notebook, and then I will turn the page and I will write it out again until it is totally just in my mind memory and in my written muscle memory as well. Those are the techniques that work for me. But I I think that's because when I was, I went to dance school when I was 4 years old, and I was immediately had to learn a dance routine, not only learn the dance routine facing in one direction, but then we would be asked to start it again on the other foot, on the other side of the room, and going in the opposite direction. So that was conditioning from a very, very early age to do left brain, right brain stuff. So write stuff down. I would also say that make it the last thing you look at night. Just look at it at night, put it down, go to sleep, look at it the next morning, go about your business. Because your brain, when it sleeps, it processes all of the information that you did in the day. It processes everything. So when you're feeling like you're memorizing something and it's not going well, put it down, have the rest of the day, go to sleep, wake up the next day, it will be in there somehow. So those are my memory tips. Yeah.
I'd love to know what are your 3 tips for anyone wanting to have a full-time career in music, based from your experience, certain things you've observed, but what sort of tips that you give for people who are thinking, I want to have that full-time career in music?
Goodness, I thought about that question last night. It's very difficult to advise any artist really, with regards to what they want out of this or how they get longevity or whatever, because it's down to the individual.
Right.
And the years that I've witnessed currently is some come in huge trailblazers. Oh, I'm bored, I'm going to be so-and-so now instead. And they're off. Yeah. Or they use it as a stepping stone or a springboard into that celebrity lifestyle, or find another route to do something else. So it's very difficult to advise anybody, because I don't know. I can only but speak for myself. That when I started, I was serving the music, I was pursuing this thing in the most beautiful way, I think. The opportunities that presented themselves, I took those opportunities and I kept singing and I kept acting when they came, and I kept doing that, and I stayed focused and I kept doing and stayed on course. I don't know if anybody these days are able to stay that course anymore. There's so much distractions, there's so many other ways to get into the industry and to do other things. But in fairness, there are still very talented, wonderful young people coming through that want to, express themselves musically and want to make a life and want to do this thing. It's their life purpose. So, and I can only but say, then do so. And and if you can follow your heart really, and listen to yourself, but more so be armed with some knowledge of the business itself. Yeah. Have an idea about where the money is being spent. If you get an advance, you want to know how it's been spent, so that you don't end up with owing, like I am still in debt to my label all those years ago. Why? But you are, because the money that when you were being wined and dined and put up in a nice hotel, you didn't realize it was coming after your money, but it was. Stuff like that. Or the advance you were given. And I say, just arm yourself with as much information about what this entails, because it's one thing, you got your talent and you're pursuing it, and that's great, but also there's a world of other things that are in play with regards to this industry. So you don't have to learn it all, because like I say, everybody has his job, so does that, but you know what, have an idea about what their job should be. So if you're having a conversation with the tour person, then you want to know what the tour person's job should be. Have an idea about what that entails, and what does that do, and what should that be, so that you can, when you have these conversations with them, be on a footing whereby you're not going to have the wool pull over your eyes. Because at the end of the day, if you're paying for stuff to be done and it's not getting done, you need to know what it is that you need to get you to the next stage. But apart from that, it's very difficult to advise any artist, because a true artist knows himself and will pursue his passion and what it is that he is. And you can't advise that individual. Who advised, the painters? Nobody did. They suffered. They kept going. They had friends, but they still scratched away and still painted away. And that's what you have to do. Be prepared to work hard. You know, it's a different world now. I don't know how, you don't have to, if you can get on the telly and get yourself that way, get through that way, you don't have to work as hard at all. I know, I said, personally speaking, how I've had to do it. I talk about getting that transit van with the band and all the gear in the back and driving for 3 hours, rolling out. You can only stand up. You get out, you're going to put a performance of your life on that stage because they paid the tickets. You better do that. You jump back in that van and you get back on the motorway and you roll out 3 o'clock in the morning and you're coming in with the milkman and you're going to get up and carry on with your life. And there's another gig, you get back in. I don't think those gigs, those people, that happens much now, apart from those band, kind of situation. Function, So there ain't that much going on now. They don't want it that way. The kids today, we want to go the nice route. We want the champagne and we want the gear, the clothes, and we're gonna go on the telly and get there. And that kind of it's kind of wrong in a way because it doesn't say. I mean, to be fast track. The expression to be fast track into the industry. Yeah. And when they fast track, that track runs out very quickly. Very quickly. But then, did they really want to be in it? Are you there taking up space where somebody really should be there? And so, what can you do? What can you do? What can you do other than you just let them go? And the true artist, the cream will rise. The old expression is still the same. It will rise to the top. And those who really, really want it, those who really want to do this, will still be there. Yeah. And those who just came in and thought, oh, this is not for me. And there's a lot of those, trust me, not for me. Oh, I can't be bothered with that. Who ain't having that? And it's been said. I've seen it. You've seen it. The whole industry is littered, dare I say, with all these, with stuff, dare I call it, because they were never really intended. It looked good. I can wear this. It's a fashion show. I can me this and me that. It's a fashion show. I've got no clothes on and it doesn't matter. And that's what it's all about. So when they've done all that, when you've gone through all that, then maybe they'll sit back and really consider what it is they really want to do. But no, you can't advise really. You have to go and live it and experience it.
No, I think you said some really interesting things in that. I mean, the business, learning the business of the wool is not pulled over your eyes is like a real big one there. And obviously,
it's important.
Whether people really want this, is it just the glamorous side they're looking at and not the actual career or the work that you have to put in? So things instead of all of that. Wow. When I was starting out, I wish I knew half of these things. It would have just made my journey so much easier. So I'm really hoping that you heard something today that resonated, that you can take on board, you can build with to help your journey in the music industry. By the way, if you're facing difficulty in getting paid for your music and you want to know certain things that will help you overcome this, or even get you paid in advance, then download my 10 tips to help you with this problem. It's called 10 Reasons Why They'll Pay You Before Gig Day. You can download the sheet from www.successbeyondthescore.com/get paid before gig day. The link is also in the description.